So this is definitely my third time recording this video because I didn't necessarily know how I wanted to gather my thoughts on this. Oh, and we're back, by the way. Yo, what's up, boys and girls? It's your boy Swolelax here, and I'm back at it again with another video. This time something a little different. Today, let's talk about Buster Blader and why they're kind of boring. Now, I'm trying to say this in the nicest way possible because I actually really like Buster Bladers. I feel like a lot of times I talk about decks where I'm like, oh, this deck has some problems. And I'm like, I really like it, I swear. Hear me out. Buster Bladers are a fan favorite deck spanning all the way back into the Duel Monsters era. In fact, they were a key card inside of Yugi's own deck. I get really hyped anytime I see these cards pulled out. The tiny dragons are just adorable. The fusion spell card is insane. And of course, we have the big baddie himself, the Fusion Monster. All these cards join the sick card club. They have amazing artwork and they are really fun to play in a casual setting. Now, a couple years ago, and even pre-Link's Master Rule 3, this deck was actually a fairly decent rogue option because you had things like the Buster Dragon Lock, which we'll get into. But why do I say Buster Bladers are boring? Well, can we talk about heroes for just a second? I know, I can't go one video without mentioning heroes, but it's an important comparison to make whenever we're talking about Buster Bladers. You guys may have noticed the lack of hero discussions and also the lack of hero deck profiles despite the recent support. Yes, we got Emerald Heroes, Solid Man, Bion, and Malicious are seen in more decks than ever, and Darklaw is still an amazing card. But I'd like to argue that heroes like Buster Bladers have a stale meta. Insert white man blinking gift. I don't actually mean the meta itself is stale in terms of the grander scheme of Yu-Gi-Oh! What I really mean is that the deck's specific meta is stagnant. When I say stale meta of the deck, what I mean is the players themselves, the deck's new support, and any other type of playstyle isn't really advancing or progressing the deck's state. Inside of the case of heroes, for example, essentially all the cards you've been playing inside of heroes are the cards you've been playing since you've played heroes. I want to say the past couple months previously to this, I would have told you you're wrong because we have cards like Bion and Malicious seeing a spike in play, Topologic Bomber Dragon cards being able to rip out things from your opponent's hand by summoning Darklaw, and the 60 card hero variants becoming a much more prominent staple along with Phantom Knight heroes. But for me personally, and I know a lot of other hero players, there's no real good alternative anymore outside of 60 card heroes. The fact that you're running so many bricks in the form of the equipped spells, and the fact that Isolde using the 4 cards to banish to get Armageddon Knight is such a powerful play, it means that there's not a lot of variants of heroes that you can really play super effectively. Sure, I may have profiled a few different variants of hero decks in the past, but I'm gonna be honest with you, outside of a few different hidden techs that I've been seeing, there's not a whole lot of things that have been progressing the hero meta, and what I'm really waiting for is that one strategy to really push heroes to the next level where I can still play them in a 40 card combo variant. Hopefully we can bring back totally awesome heroes. But Swolelax, how does this relate to Buster Bladers? Well, Buster Bladers have a similar problem right now. Sure, there are some inherent flaws that were also pretty exploitable inside of Master Rule 3, but a big reason why players aren't necessarily playing this deck and also aren't playing a lot of other fan favorite decks is because the deck is stale. The strategies have all been pretty much figured out. The Buster Dragon Lock isn't necessarily super readily available, and the deck can only go so far with its current support. There'd have to be some new spicy tech or an entire other meta call to really push this deck forward inside of the state of Yu-Gi-Oh! Currently right now, the two biggest strategies of Buster Blader are attack focused or control focused. They essentially do the same thing revolving on the Buster Blader fusion cards attacking into your opponent's defense position monsters, but in one scenario you're playing a Buster Blader fusion protect the castle type of deck, and in the other scenario you're playing the Buster Dragon Lock. Now the Buster Dragon Lock is whenever you had Buster Dragon on the board, which turns all of your opponent's monsters into dragon types, and the Buster Blader fusion card, which is essentially just a dragon capture jar on legs. And then on top of the fact that it's also a skill drain for those monsters, whoo baby. It's actually pretty sweet, and reliably before Master Rule 4, you could churn this combo out. And especially nowadays with Master Rule 4 and the Link Zones not necessarily being too inviting to this deck, it does struggle in trying to get these cards out. This not only makes it really difficult to try to figure out and make the deck a lot better, but it also prohibits the deck from moving forward until that point comes, thus making it a stale deck. But in addition to that, there are also a few other reasons why people aren't really playing Buster Bladers the way they used to. Outside of the problems transitioning into Master Rule 4, there are two main things. Number one, it is a battle-focused deck. When you really think about the essence of Buster Bladers dating all the way back into the Duel Monsters era, it's the attack-boosting monsters. Now, GX had this problem too, and also continues to have this problem with the form of its boosting attack of its Hero Link monster. It's terrible. But the Buster Blader fusion monster really can only shine inside of the battle phase. Add that on top of the fact that the lock is cool and all whenever you have Buster Blader, the Destruction Swordsman, and also the Buster Dragon, but outside of that, what are you doing? This actually is not necessarily a problem specific to Buster Bladers, but also a symptomatic problem across rogue decks. For a rogue deck to be successful, the main phase has to be its top priority. Take Cyber Dragons, for example, which is a pretty viable rogue strategy at the moment. They can churn out insane boards, not only that you guys have seen inside the Combo Kitchen, but also in duels within our 100 game series. And to complement that board, they have a lot of control, negation, and during the battle phase, they can OTK like Cyber Dragons have always had. But in the case of Buster Bladers, they can't really make too powerful of a board. And that is probably one of the best things inside inside of the game right now outsort of resource management. That is actually a great segue into the number 2 thing. And that is, as I have written it down in my notes, the resource game. Now I just said that rogue decks have to make a pretty nasty board and enable for them to be viable. However, you have decks like Altergeist, even Paleozoic Frogs, you can make a pretty nasty board. However, they also have great resource management in the grind game. Even decks like Blue Eyes, Cyber Dragons, and Dinosaurs in the long game can still relatively churn out good results. But especially in decks like Paleozoics and Altergeist, their resource grinding game is crucial to their success. Not only can they reoccur value with cards like the Personal Spoofing and also the Multi-Faker, cards like Totally Awesome, even Trap Trick, getting them cards and searching them out. These decks do what top tier decks do, just at a longer, more slower pace. Decks like Goki, Sky Strikers, and Thunder Dragons all at the moment can churn out insane boards, but also reoccur value and not have to compromise using that much resources. And if they do, they're probably winning. Take that and translate it into other rogue decks like Heroes and even Buster Bladers. Buster Bladers spend an insane amount of resources that can't necessarily grind on the long game if those resources are swept away from them. Sure, the tiny Buster Blader Dragon cards can do this somewhat, but it's not as fast and it's not as reliable as other strategies. I compare it somewhat to something like Magical Muskets or Magical Musketeers. Magical Musketeers, essentially what they do is they rely really heavily on that normal summon. However, the fact that you can activate spell and trap cards from the hand, all the cards have relatively good search, and the fact that they have interesting column mechanics and negations make them a relatively grindy deck that also relies on that normal summon. However, if you can't capitalize off your normal summon or your search, you donezo. Now, I may be going a little bit crazy with these comparisons, but what I'm trying to say is that Buster Bladers fall into the same problems that other legacy archetypes do. Essentially, decks like Buster Bladers, Dark Magicians, and even Red Eyes can't necessarily reliably churn out effective resources that equate into winning positions and better boards. But I don't know, maybe that's just me. What do you guys think of it? What do you guys think of Buster Bladers? In the comment section down below. Do you guys like them? Do you guys hate them? Do you guys think it's confusing to play? The wall of text? What is your favorite Buster Dragon? In the next video, we're actually going to go over each and every one of those little tiny dog creatures. They're so cute. They have like little swords and everything too. I love them. But I would love to hear from you guys. What are your guys' thoughts on Buster Bladers, the future of Buster Blader decks, the past of Buster Blader decks? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you guys like the video, make sure to leave a like. If you want some more, please subscribe. I've got a lot more videos coming to the pipeline, so stay tuned for that if you want to. But yeah, that's all I gotta say. Peace out.